My brother looked me in the eye, well, over the phone, and said, "That's not a wedding. You're just going to City Hall and a cheap restaurant." Then he told me to move my wedding date, because he decided to take it. I'm Zoey. I was 25 when all of this happened. I teach English at a public middle school in a big U.S. city, the kind of city where people measure your worth by the building you live in and the car you drive. My fiancé, now my husband, William, everyone calls him Will. He teaches history at the high school 2 blocks from mine. He's calm in a way I can't even describe without sounding dramatic. Like the world could be on fire and he'd still look at you and say, "Okay, let's breathe. Tell me what you need." I'm the opposite. I feel everything first. Then I think. So when we got engaged, we didn't dream about chandeliers or designer menus. We dreamed about something small and warm and real, a ceremony that felt like us. We found a little chapel tucked behind an old community garden. Nothing fancy, but it smelled like jasmine in the late summer. We planned 20 invitations. Not because we were lonely, not because we didn't have friends, because we wanted a wedding where every face mattered. A short ceremony, vows we wrote ourselves, and then dinner at this cozy, family-owned restaurant Will loved. One of those places with tiny candles on every table and handwritten specials on a chalkboard where the owner acts like your family even if you've only been there twice. I told everyone our date early, September 8th, because it wasn't random. Will and I met on September 8th during our first year of university. I had gotten lost on campus, shocking, I know, and I was standing in the middle of a walkway like a confused cartoon character, clutching a paper map like it was going to save me. I was already fighting back tears because I felt stupid. Will walked up, glanced at my map, and said, "You're holding it upside down." I should have hated him. Instead, I laughed so hard I snorted. And then he walked me to my class, slowly, like we had all the time in the world. That's how Will has always loved me. Patiently, steadily, like he never once doubted I was worth the time. So yes, September 8th mattered, and my brother knew that. My brother Nick is 5 years older than me. Successful businessman, expensive watch, expensive smile, expensive everything. He's the kind of guy who walks into a room like it belongs to him. And maybe that's why he never handled it well when attention wasn't on him. When we were kids, Nick used to say it all the time. "You always loved Zoey more." He'd say it in front of me like I wasn't even there, like I was a prize being passed around. And the worst part? My parents didn't know how to respond. Because they did give me a lot of attention. But not because I was the favorite. Because I was the younger one. Because both my parents worked insane hours and they felt guilty, so when they were home, they tried to make it count. And when you have an older child and a younger child, the younger one always seems more fragile. So Nick took every small thing as proof. If I cried, my mom rushed to me. Proof. If I got sick, my dad called off work. Proof. If Nick got a B and I got an A, my mom praised me. Proof. Except Nick didn't notice the other things. Like how my mom would give him the better piece of food on his plate without thinking. Like how my dad would tell him, "You're the man of the house," when he was 10 years old, as if he needed to carry the weight of adulthood before puberty. Nick grew up believing love was a competition, and if he wasn't winning, it meant he was losing. As adults, Nick and I weren't close. We didn't have that sibling friendship you see in movies. We communicated at birthdays, holidays, family dinners where we politely avoided topics that might cause explosions. He always kept me at a distance, and I honestly stopped trying. Because it's hard to love someone who treats your existence like an insult. Then he met Sienna. And if Nick is expensive, Sienna is curated. Sienna is Instagram perfected, hair always done, outfit always intentional. Every moment of her life looks like it was edited before it even happened. She posted their relationship like it was a brand partnership, and Nick loved it. Of course he did. It was June when I ordered my invitations. 20, cream paper, minimal design, a tiny pressed flower detail in the corner. I remember clicking confirm order and smiling so hard my cheeks hurt. It felt like the wedding was becoming real. A few days later, I got home from work exhausted. One of my 7th graders had cried in class because her parents were divorcing, and I'd been carrying that sadness all day like a stone in my chest. I tossed my bag onto the couch, kicked off my shoes, and saw a package by the door. A fancy box, black with gold trim. I froze. Because in my family, simple packages don't come in boxes like that. I picked it up like it might bite me. Inside was a bottle of champagne, perfectly nestled in velvet. A box of chocolates that looked too pretty to eat. And a postcard with sleek embossed lettering. Please celebrate your wedding with us. I just stood there blinking. Because for a second, my heart did something stupid. It softened. It thought, maybe he's trying. Maybe Nick, my brother who never clapped the loudest for me, who never hugged me first, who always made everything feel like a scoreboard. Maybe he was choosing to be kind. I didn't even open the envelope right away. I held it in my hands, smiling like a child who just found out their older sibling secretly loves them. And then I slid my finger under the seal and pulled out the invitation. Thick paper, heavy, the kind that feels like money. Gold foil. A venue name that looked like it belonged in a luxury magazine. The Elysium Grand Hall. You know the type, chandeliers, marble floors, valet parking, a staff that calls you sir even if you're 22. And then my eyes dropped to the date. September 8th. I swear it felt like my body turned to ice. I read it again. September 8th, same year, same city, same day I was getting married. The air in my apartment suddenly felt thin, like I couldn't breathe enough to think. I sat on the edge of the couch, holding the invitation like it was evidence of a crime, and then, because I'm me, I grabbed my phone and called Nick immediately. He answered like he'd been waiting. Zoey. Nick, is there a mistake? My voice sounded too high, too tight. Your invitation says September 8th. Yep. But I planned my wedding for September 8th. Everyone knows that. You know that. There was a pause. Not confusion, not apology, just a deliberate pause, like he was enjoying the moment. Then he said casually, "This date works best for me and Sienna. You can reschedule yours." I actually laughed once. It came out sharp and ugly because my brain couldn't process the audacity. Reschedule? I said. Nick, I chose this date first. Zoey, he sighed like I was being unreasonable, be realistic. Realistic about what? About what you're doing, he said. You're going to City Hall and then taking people to a cheap restaurant. That's not a wedding. For a second, I couldn't speak. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Because it wasn't just the insult. It was the confidence. The way he said it like he was stating a fact, not trying to hurt me. Like my dream was objectively pathetic. I swallowed so hard it hurt. You did this on purpose, I whispered. He chuckled. Actually chuckled. You're so emotional, he said, like that explained everything. We're doing it at the Elysium. It's hard to book. You know that. So pick another day? No, Nick said, still calm. We already sent the invitations. People have schedules. You can adjust yours. Adjust? Like my wedding was a dentist appointment. I felt my hands shaking. You're my brother, I said, and I hated how small my voice sounded. Why would you do this? His tone turned slightly sharper, like he was done pretending. Because I'm not rearranging my life around your little moment, he said. If Mom and Dad want to attend both, they'll figure it out. And then he added, soft, like a final knife. Don't make it dramatic. And he hung up. I didn't cry right away. I sat there staring at the invitation, because part of me still wanted to believe there was an explanation that didn't make my brother a villain. So I called my mom. She answered cheerful, like she didn't know my world just tilted. Hi, honey. Mom, I said. Did you see Nick's wedding date? Yes, she sounded excited. Isn't the invitation beautiful? Sienna has such taste. My throat burned. Mom, it's the same day as my wedding? There was a pause. And in that pause, I heard something I recognized from childhood. That careful calculation. That moment where she weighed which response would cause less chaos. Well, she said slowly. They can choose any date they want, Zoey, and the Elysium is very popular. They probably didn't have a choice. They had a choice, I said, my voice rising. They could choose not to ruin mine. More silence. I could almost picture her looking at the floor, twisting her ring, doing the thing she does when she doesn't want to deal with conflict. Honey, she said softly, don't say ruin. It's just a date. It's not just a date to me. I was shaking now, anger and heartbreak mixing like poison. Mom, whose wedding are you going to go to? She inhaled sharply like I'd slapped her. Zoey, just answer. And then she said it, the sentence that made everything inside me go quiet. But Nick was first. I blinked. What? We got his invitation first, she said, like that settled it. You haven't sent yours yet? I felt something crack in my chest. I didn't send mine yet because I just ordered them, I said. But I told you months ago. You knew. Honey, she tried again, but the words were useless now, because I finally understood. To my mom, the formal invitation mattered more than my voice. Nick's glittering envelope outweighed my months of planning. And I knew why. Guilt. Because Nick had spent his entire childhood accusing them of loving me more. So now, whenever there was a choice, my mom leaned toward Nick, trying to prove she didn't have a favorite. Except, it always looked like she did. And it wasn't me. I whispered, Mom, please don't do this. She sounded pained. Zoey, don't put me in the middle. But I thought, you've been in the middle my whole life. You just always stand closer to Nick. I ended the call before my voice broke. When Will came home, I was still sitting on the couch with that invitation in my lap like it had glued me there. He took one look at my face and didn't ask, what's wrong, the way people do when they want you to answer quickly. He just sat beside me and waited. So I told him. I told him everything. The box, the date, Nick's words, my mom's silence. Nick was first. Will listened without interrupting. When I finished, my breath was ragged like I'd run a mile. Will took my hand and squeezed. Then he said calmly, We're not rescheduling. I blinked. You're not doing that, he repeated. We chose our date for a reason. We're getting married on September 8th. But my parents, he shook his head gently. If they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. My eyes filled instantly, because I wanted to argue, but I also wanted to crawl inside his steadiness and live there. This is going to hurt, I whispered. I know, he said, but it won't define us. And then he added, soft but firm, We're building a family that won't do this. That sentence sat in my heart like a promise. So we sent our invitations, 20, to the closest people, and I waited for my family to respond. Days passed, then weeks. No reply. No, we're so excited. No, we'll be there. Nothing. Just silence. The morning of my wedding, I woke up before my alarm. My stomach was already in knots. I stood at the bathroom mirror while I pinned my hair, and I kept thinking, maybe they'll surprise me. Maybe my mom will walk in at the last second and say, Of course I'm here. Maybe my dad will straighten his tie and hug me and apologize without words. Maybe Nick will do what brothers do in movies and show up late, pretending he doesn't care. But he'll be there. I got dressed slowly. My dress wasn't designer. It was simple and beautiful. Soft fabric, gentle lace on the sleeves, nothing that screamed luxury. But when I looked at myself, I still felt like a bride. I held my bouquet, wildflowers and greenery, because I wanted it to look like something you could pick on a walk. Will was waiting at the front of the chapel. His face when he saw me, I'll never forget it. He looked at me like I was the only thing in the world that made sense, and for a second I believed the missing seats wouldn't matter. Then I turned slightly, and my eyes drifted to the first row. The seats with small name cards, Mom, Dad, Nick, all empty. I felt my throat tighten so hard I thought I might choke. I stood there, holding my bouquet, and the silence of those chairs was louder than anything. Will's family was there. His parents, his sister, even his grandmother in a pale blue dress, smiling proudly like she'd known me forever. My friends were there, but my family's absence felt like a spotlight, like everyone could see the wound. The ceremony started. I walked down the aisle anyway, because what else could I do? But with every step, I felt like a younger version of myself was walking beside me. Little Zoey, the one who always tried to be good so maybe Nick wouldn't hate her. Little Zoey, the one who smiled at family dinners while Nick rolled his eyes. Little Zoey, the one who learned early that love could be withheld like punishment. And I wanted to turn around and scoop her up and say, "You don't have to earn your place anymore." Will took my hands. He mouthed, "You're okay." I nodded even though I wasn't. We said our vows. I tried not to look at the empty seats. I tried not to imagine my parents in the Elysium, watching Sienna walk under chandeliers while I stood in a small chapel with sunlight through stained glass. I tried not to think about Nick's voice saying, "That's not a wedding." And then, just when I thought the day would pass like that, with a quiet ache under every happy moment, the chapel doors opened. Everyone turned. My heart jumped like a startled animal. And there she was. My Aunt Marlene. My mom's older sister. She walked in alone, carrying a small wrapped box, her eyes scanning until they found me. Then her face softened in a way that made my throat burn. She moved quickly but quietly, taking a seat in the first row, right in the spot labeled Mom. She looked at the empty chairs beside her and then back at me, and she nodded once, like, "I'm here. I'm not leaving." I almost cried right there. After the ceremony, she hugged me so tightly I felt the tremor in her arms. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I pulled back. "How did you know?" Her mouth tightened. "I asked your mother. She told me she wouldn't make it." My stomach dropped again. "So you came anyway?" "Yes," she said simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Because you're my niece, and because this matters." She handed me the small box. Inside was a delicate bracelet, simple, silver, with a tiny charm engraved, 9/8. I covered my mouth with my hand. She leaned in and whispered, "Don't let them make you feel small." I nodded, but I couldn't speak, because it felt like the universe had thrown me a lifeline through my aunt's hands. After the ceremony, we went to the restaurant. Candles, laughter, warm food. The owner came out and congratulated us like we were famous. Will's mom gave a toast that made me tear up. My friends danced with me in the tiny space between tables because we didn't need a ballroom to feel joy. And for a couple hours, I almost forgot. Almost. Then my phone buzzed. "Mom." I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me still craved something I knew she wouldn't give. A real apology. So I answered. Her voice was breathless, excited, almost glowing. "Honey, oh my gosh, we just had the most beautiful ceremony." I cried my eyes out from happiness. She laughed like she was reliving it. "How was yours?" I felt my spine go straight. My voice went quiet and flat, the kind of calm that comes from shock. "It was great," I said. "Oh, good," she said. "I'm so glad. Listen, your father and I can come by for 30 minutes now, before their celebration begins, if you need us there." If you need us there. Those words hit me so hard I saw white for a second, like my wedding was an optional errand, like my presence was a favor, like I should be grateful for 30 minutes squeezed between Nick's champagne tower and his first dance. I held the phone away from my ear for a second and stared at it like it was something poisonous. Then I brought it back, still calm, still controlled, because I refused to sob in front of my guests. "Thanks, Mom," I said. "Enjoy your time there. With Dad, with Nick, with all your family." "Zoey." "My wedding is just dinner in a cheap restaurant," I said, my voice still flat. "It doesn't require attention." She gasped like I'd attacked her. "That's not what I meant." I didn't let her finish. I hung up. And I walked to the bathroom. I locked the door. And then I finally fell apart. I slid to the floor in my wedding dress, pressed my fist against my mouth, and cried the kind of cry that doesn't sound like crying. It sounded like something breaking. Because in that moment, it wasn't about September 8th anymore. It was about the truth I'd been avoiding my entire life. My family didn't protect me when it mattered, and I couldn't keep pretending that didn't change anything. When I came back out, I washed my face, fixed my mascara, and smiled. I danced with Will. I laughed with my friends. I let his family wrap around me like warmth. But inside, something had shifted, something final. You'd think that would be the end. But families like mine don't just hurt you once, they hurt you. And then they rewrite the story, so you're the problem for noticing. A few days later, my aunt called me. Her voice was tired. "I just wanted you to know," she said. "Nick is furious. He says I betrayed him." My hands tightened on the phone. "Because you came to my wedding?" "Yes," she said quietly. "He's telling everyone I chose you, even though he invited first." I almost laughed. Because that was the point, wasn't it? Nick had wanted this to be a test. He wanted to prove he could snap his fingers and our parents would run. He wanted to prove that when it came down to it, they would choose him. And my aunt, by showing up for me, had disrupted the performance. "So, what now?" I asked. She hesitated. "Your mother, she's not speaking to me." My chest tightened. "Aunt Marlene? It's fine," she said quickly, but I could hear the hurt. "I knew it would happen. I'm older. I can handle it." I swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize," she said. "You did nothing wrong." But of course, the family narrative was already being written. Zoey was dramatic. Zoey was selfish. Zoey made it a competition. Nick's wedding had fireworks and a live band, by the way. I saw the photos later. Sienna posted everything, every angle, every champagne pour, every moment of my parents smiling. My mom looked radiant. My dad looked like he was trying not to disappear. And Nick looked victorious. It's been 5 years. Will and I have 2 kids now. A little boy with Will's calm eyes and my stubborn chin, and a little girl who laughs like sunlight and screams like a tiny siren when she doesn't get what she wants. We have a home that isn't huge, but it's ours. We have routines, bedtime stories, pancakes on Saturday mornings. We have a life built on steadiness, not ego. My parents are wonderful grandparents. That's the strange part. They show up for my kids. They bring gifts. They babysit. They clap at school performances. They smile like the kind of grandparents you see on greeting cards. And I let them, because my children deserve that love. But as parents, I keep them at a distance. Because I learned the hard way that love without protection isn't love I can trust. Nick divorced Sienna 8 months after their wedding. Apparently, money became their entire relationship. She never worked. She always wanted more luxury, more trips, more status. And Nick, who built his life on proving he could win, realized he married someone who would never stop moving the finish line. After that, he had 3 more weddings. 3. Each one bigger than the last, at least according to the photos. I didn't attend any of them. My parents did, every time. They told me about them like it was weather. "Oh, Nick is getting married again. Oh, it's a beautiful venue. Oh, Sienna was so difficult, but this new one seems nicer." Like none of it mattered. Like he didn't steal my wedding date. Like he didn't stand on my happiness and call it not a wedding. And I never brought it up again, because what would be the point? They already chose, over and over. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and the kids are asleep and Will is next to me breathing slow, I think about Nick as a child. I think about how lonely he must have felt. I think about how he turned that loneliness into a weapon, and I hate that part of me still misses him, because I do. I miss the brother I wished I had. I miss the version of him that could have been, if he had ever decided love wasn't a contest. And here's the truth I don't say out loud often. If Nick called me tomorrow and said, "Zoey, I'm sorry, I was wrong," if he didn't make excuses, if he didn't joke, if he didn't twist it into "you're too sensitive," if he actually owned it, I think I would forgive him. Not because what he did was small, but because I'm tired of carrying a relationship that never existed. I'm tired of holding a door open for someone who never once tried the handle. I want to be the kind of person who can forgive, without forgetting what forgiveness costs. But Nick has never made the first step, not once. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the real reason he chose September 8th wasn't about Sienna or the Elysium or convenience. Maybe it was to prove something to himself, that even on the day I thought I was building my own future, he could still reach into my life and rearrange it. But here's what he didn't understand. He didn't take my wedding from me. He just revealed who my family was. And because of that, I stopped waiting for them to be different. I stopped begging to be chosen. I chose myself instead. And I chose Will. And I chose the family we built. One where love doesn't come with conditions, and where no one has to steal a date just to feel important. Still, if Nick ever makes that first step, I know my heart will hear it, because some part of me is still that girl holding a fancy invitation in June, believing for one hopeful second that my brother might finally be trying. And maybe one day, he will.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and explore our channel for more love, betrayal, and redemption tales.